4, 5, and at 9. Chicago Live is next. Have a great day.
At this 1 o'clock hour, we have a whole lot to get to. We want to start out first, though, really delving into the apprehension of this suspect accused in killing Charlie Kirk. Let's go to Spencer Joseph now. Spencer, I know you're in the car. You're with Fox 13, Salt Lake City. We spoke yesterday about this. Kind of bring our viewers up to speed on what we've learned in the last few hours.
Yeah, so what we've learned in the last few hours is last night after the last press conference, which was held about 8 o'clock our time, Mountain Time, that the FBI and the Utah Department of Public Safety received some information from a family member of 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. They then very quickly apprehended Tyler as the suspect in this case. In fact, we know it was a family member and a roommate that provided the information, as well as maybe a clergy member or some involved in their church here. That those were the individuals that led to the arrest of the suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. The FBI also saying they received over 7,000 tips as a part of this, the most since the Boston Marathon bombing. We are driving from Salt Lake down to St. George, where the suspect was arrested. It's about 4 hours. We're 2 hours and change into that drive. And our hope is that once we get down there, we're going to get some more answers about who this individual is, and why they would commit this heinous act of violence.
Talk about, some of what we heard the governor and Kash Patel mention in terms of in the press conference. They talked about, his digital footprint to some extent. They talked about a little bit about, how they were able to apprehend him. Can you walk us through a little bit maybe of his mindset? We don't know everything, but some of what came out today.
Yeah, and a lot of what that is coming from is a Discord in which his roommate was able to share with the FBI and with the Utah Department of Public Safety. It was saying things talking about being anti-Charlie Kirk, as well as how the weapon was going to be stashed. That's part of the thing. We're actually trying to find a little bit of clarity. We're trying to find a little bit of clarity on that right now, exactly what those messages meant about the weapon being stashed. But that was a part of it. And then as well, one other thing, and we actually talked about this, you and I talked about this yesterday, was the ammunition, that there were some things out there about something on the gun or something on the ammunition. And today it was confirmed that there were some engravings on that ammunition. Some of it was saying anti-fascist things. Others were just kind of internet memes or phrases. So very odd, very, very odd to engrave those on the side of the shell casings, on not only the shell casing of the bullet that was used to kill Charlie Kirk, but also on the other bullets within that gun. There were different engravings on all of those bullets. So that's something that we were able to confirm and learn today as well, which further goes to maybe this individual's mindset. But what we know right now is he certainly was very vocal about the fact that he was not a fan of Charlie Kirk, and these shell casings seem to lead further down this kind of anti-fascist rhetoric that he was hoping to put out there. But again, I think that regardless of anyone's opinion, this is a heinous act of violence, and the governor said as so, that in fact he used the phrase, we need to get off the off-ramp of political divide in this country and make sure that this act of violence, this act of political assassination does not happen in our country.
Yeah, very interesting. You bring up the governor's comments there. He also spoke about, the role that social media is playing in all of this as well. Okay, so let's kind of slow it down a little bit, Spencer, and walk me through this. Do we know exactly what part of Utah Tyler Robinson is from? And kind of, if you do know that information, walk me through, what kind of area that is.
Yeah, so in fact, we're heading there right now. He's from Washington County. It's the southwesternmost part of the state. Utah Valley University is far north in Utah, just a little bit south of Salt Lake, the capital city. This is 4 hours down the road. It's much more spread out, much hotter temperatures. I would say it's a more conservative area of the state, the area of Washington County and St. George, and is very strange. Most Utahns do not necessarily see the two in terms of the population center of along the Wasatch Front, along the Provo area, the Orem area where Utah Valley University is, and the areas around St. George as physically connected. They're really only connected by I-15, which is what we're on right now, as kind of this main corridor across the state. But there really is not a strong connection between the two in terms of a lot of travel up and down every single day. And like I said earlier, they're about 4 hours apart. So this individual drove up, and they have this on cameras. This individual drove up in a gray Dodge Challenger, and then after the shooting, took that same Dodge Challenger and drove it back. And we've actually gone to the house already. We have a crew that's already down in St. George, and they found a car that matches that description as well outside the home. There is also a very large police presence at what we believe is Robinson's apartment. Those are two separate places. So that's all breaking right now as we're speaking. Those are two things that are actually happening actively right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the population of St. George, Utah, as you speak, a little over 106,000 people. Any idea about the family of this 22-year-old?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't know much about them. There was a lot of rhetoric online, and we've actually been able to confirm that a lot of that rhetoric was not the right person. And so that is one thing that I think right now, and frankly, if I could call them this, a lot of keyboard warriors are out there claiming family members are X person when they actually are not. That happened yesterday as well with suspects or people that the internet maybe thought was a suspect after those photos were released, and it turned out those were not the right person either. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of rhetorics online, and actually we can say that some of those are pointing to the wrong family right now, which is very disturbing. But we don't know particularly a lot about his family, other than we do know family members were the ones that helped lead to the arrest of Tyler Robinson.
What do you make of that? You're a journalist. I'm sure you've covered all kinds of stories in your career. I was really a little surprised to hear that. What do you make of the fact that family, in some ways, were responsible? I think a friend as well, that person that was on Discord, a roommate, were the ones that turned him in.
Yeah, I think it goes, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, that the public would be very important in the apprehension of this suspect. I think that those photos going so wide out not only to the United States but to the world was the intention behind the FBI and the Department of Public Safety to put those out. And we kind of knew that was most likely going to play a big role in this based on the way the suspect escaped from campus. But I would say you're right. The thing I am most surprised about right now is that it was a family member, and some people are reporting his father that was the one that actually turned him in. And again, we're going to try and find out some more clarity once we get down there on this in particular. But yeah, I mean, that surprised me greatly. But I think it goes to, that this family member recognized this as very, very wrong, as something that was horrible, not only for his family and for the Utah area, but for the country. And following that, I think this family member felt obligated, regardless of that it was their son or their relative, that this was important to reach out to the FBI. And actually, Kash Patel, as well as Governor Spencer Cox, thanked that family and thanked the members of that family that stepped forward, because that was so important in bringing this to a conclusion.
No, you're right. Because when you look at some of these other shootings, maybe not a shooting as isolated as this one, but some of these mass shootings that we've had, the parents end up being questioned. The parents end up in court. So I think this was a very interesting way to see this play out. Spencer, I want you to do me a favor and kind of walk me through what you hope to accomplish during the course of your day reporting on this when you reach that courthouse.
Yeah, I think that the majority of what we're going to be looking for, and me in particular, is the St. George community you mentioned is about 100,000 people, but it feels very much so like a small town. A lot of people know each other. A lot of people went to high school together. And so my hope is I can paint a little bit clearer picture of exactly who Tyler Robinson is. And I think that may be the biggest question everybody has as you're actually taking a look at the Utah County jail. So one thing to note is that Robinson has actually already been transported back up to Utah County. That's in northern Utah, very close to Utah Valley University, where the shooting has taken place. That's the live picture you're taking a look at right now. But this all took place in terms of the arrest down in southern Utah. So very, very large geographic area that this investigation was able to cover. And I believe what Kash Patel said was 33 hours. So that's a very large distance to travel, not only across our state, but looking at all avenues and exploring all of those 7,000 leads as quickly as possible. This lead then coming in and ultimately leading to Robinson's arrest.
I find it very interesting in terms of what has been recovered, the gun recovered, the bullets recovered, not just one bullet, which leads me to kind of think here, other people could have been hurt. We know that Charlie Kirk obviously was who he wanted to go after, but other people in that crowd, that was a massive crowd, could have been hurt. How do you think this will play out in the court system? Any idea in terms of the charges that Robinson can be looking at here?
Yeah, so I believe those charges have already been announced. I'm going to look them up just momentarily. I believe we already have those documents, and I don't want to. I believe we already have that, so let me look that up. But in terms of one thing that I can absolutely say is that Governor Spencer Cox has already said that they will seek the death penalty in this case. So one charge for sure I know of, aggravated murder. I believe there was a couple of others as well. I'm trying to find that. I don't know. What
I'm seeing right now, facing capital murder and weapons charges. So a host of charges there. Any other press conferences are you expecting to happen throughout the course of today?
We're hoping that we do get some, as this is a lot of clarity. This answers a lot of questions, and especially I think puts the public at ease. One thing you and I were talking about yesterday was the fact that that community around Utah Valley University and the Orem community, while they were out at vigils and were last night as well for Charlie Kirk, that community was concerned that this suspect traveled straight through their community. I think in the conversations I've already had today with individuals, not only in that community, but the Utah community as a whole, I think everyone is much more at ease and thankful that the shooter is in custody so that a lot of people's mourning can start. Because regardless of whether they agreed with Charlie Kirk or not, this truly has rocked the Utah community, as I know it's rocked the American community as well.
Here in our state, when it comes to court trials, we often see the mug shots or the depictions, art that has been drawn up of the suspects because cameras are not allowed. Has there been any discussion about the camera situation? Will we actually get to see video of this suspect at some point?
So that's a really good question. In the state of Utah, it is up to the judge most times. At this point, we as journalists can put in requests for that, and I'm certain, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm certain that our crew has already explored that. We do know mugshots are not available for every single person, but they were put out for this suspect in particular. And if I can hold it up to the camera, I don't know if I can hold it up.
We can see it. Yep, we see it.
Yeah, that suspect and that mugshot was released by the Utah, the governor's office, I believe, first, and then knowing that he was booked into the Utah County Sheriff's Office. So that is actually not common in the state of Utah for us to see mugshots like that. And so that was interesting that very immediately that was put out. And in Utah, we do have the ability, in some cases, to bring cameras into courtrooms with certain restrictions, sometimes no restrictions, but it is entirely up to the judge. And so we're going to have to wait and see, one, who the judge is in this case, but two, exactly what the stipulations are going to be around that.
Spencer, I know you're headed to the county jail. Walk me through the other stories that you guys are covering throughout the course of today.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're finding out is as we piece together a timeline, we want to put together as best of a timeline as possible between when he left St. George, when he got to Utah Valley University. That is one of our stories. We're talking with some of our elected officials, including our Attorney General, about this, as Governor Cox has already announced that the state will seek the death penalty. That is something that we're exploring with the Attorney General today. We're also trying to find, as I said earlier, and this will most likely be mostly me, try to find those individuals that maybe knew Robinson down in that area, as well as looking at the crime scene down here in St. George, where his apartment complex was. So I think those are kind of the primary ones today. And then also, as we mentioned earlier, one thing we hope to explore today is this misinformation that's out there about identifying the wrong suspects and the wrong families, and potentially harassing those individuals, even though they had nothing to do with this case.
Have we heard from any of those people that were initially arrested? I know we saw an older gentleman that was taken into custody. People were yelling at him. They thought that was a suspect. Have we heard those people say anything?
I haven't heard the two initial arrests. We haven't heard from those people as of yet. One thing I will say is we have heard from some of the individuals who were suspects for a brief time because the internet claimed them to be. In fact, I spoke to one individual yesterday who is the father of somebody that online everyone was speculating was the suspect, and he was in tears because as he said, this is going to be for the rest of my son's life. If you search online, this is what's going to come up next to his name. And he had nothing to do with this particular instance. And so there are a lot of people that are coming out and talking to us that were a part of maybe those 7,000 tips. And a lot of them are distraught that the internet is pointing towards them. But that is one thing we are also efforting, as well as those initial two arrests. What were those in relation to? They were released relatively quickly within a few hours after the shooting. And so what was the conversation there and why did that happen? I think that is something we still need to answer.
Yeah, because the internet can be a really dark place at times and really can ruin by doing that, by going online, calling these people out, putting their pictures out there, maybe even their home addresses. You can literally ruin someone's life. Spencer, I want to ask you something else in terms of this 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Any idea, was he working? I know they said he was not a college student at this particular university. Sounds like he wasn't a college student at all. Any idea Absolutely. Of what he was doing? Was he working? Any indication of that?
We do know one thing, at least we believe that he was a student of a technical college in the St. George area. That technical college did come out this morning and confirm to us that he was a student, but there was no further information available about that. And I believe, if I'm saying it right, it was some sort of electrical trade that he was studying at the time. Again, a 22-year-old. Exactly, and that's one thing that we're going to try and get a little more clarity on today. But at this point, we believe he was going to a trade school down here, at least relatively recently, for the school to confirm that he was a student there.
Any idea about court appearances for this suspect? Is he in court tomorrow? When will he be in court?
That's a really good question. We don't know that yet. But I can almost guarantee that we'll know that by the end of the day.
Okay. And let me just ask you this, and then I'll let you go, because I know you have a lot on your plate there. In terms of the investigation, kind of walk us through what's next. They have their suspect, but there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and we kind of heard the FBI and the governor talk about it, is gathering that forensic evidence. We know that several items have been sent to the FBI lab in Quantico. That will be one of those things that we absolutely will continue to follow up on. On the other side of that, I think it's also about gathering that physical evidence that's at these two scenes in Washington County. They've gathered all the evidence from Utah Valley University that they can. Now that work starts down here, and to see what exactly, maybe they're, they can trace where this weapon came from, where they engraved bullets or anything like that. Those will kind of be, I think, where the immediate investigation goes to continue building the case
of the alleged assassin.
Okay, well, Spencer Joseph, we appreciate your hard work. Anyone that is watching right now, you can follow Spencer on Instagram at Spencer Joseph TV. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you over the last 2 days. I know it's been a hard 2 days that we've been talking about this, but definitely you brought insight into all of this, and we really appreciate your perspective, being that you're someone on the ground there in Utah. We thank you so much, and perhaps we'll be talking to you next week as well. Thank you for the hard work, Spencer. All right, thank you. Stick with Chicago Live. We have a whole lot more coming up throughout our show, including next we're going to go to an immigrant hearing that is taking place at City Hall right here in the city of Chicago. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to go to Alderman Nick Sposato of the 38th Ward. He wrote this letter to Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling and also corporate counsel for the city. Alderman, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you just fine. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk about this. You know, we're living in some really interesting times when it comes to politics. And, you know, we cover city council all the time. We see people go to the podium. Sometimes it's very tense. Sometimes it's very angry. Walk me through what has unfolded in chambers lately to make you go and write this letter, really seeking more security.
Well, the anger has certainly wrapped up. I will tell you that. I've been pushing for something for the past, 3 or 4 years under both administrations, some sort of security or protection over there. I'm not that worried for myself, but I'm certainly worried for my colleague, Deb Silverstein. I even asked Peter Chico to switch seats with her, but she declined. She gets most of the hate or anger along with Ray Lopez, but unfortunately, I love the chance to interact with the people, as many of my colleagues do, but things are out of control in this world right now. We have to take care of it. We have to do safety first, is my opinion. So it's a simple solution. Put a plexiglass up there, and that's really about it.
You mentioned two of the alders in particular, Ray Lopez and Deborah Silverstein. Has there been any threats? Has anything happened to make you particularly concerned for those two?
Well, not recently, but throughout the years, yes. I mean, most of the anger is directed towards the mayor, but there's a couple colleagues that they've been targeting a few times, 5 or 6 of them maybe. So, you never know what could happen. Once again, very unfortunate. Love the chance to interact with the people when they're there, especially me. I'm in the back row. That would stop that if there's a plexiglass or something like that. But, we have to start thinking of safety first. The world has gone mad. We saw the 3 recent nasty murders, or the one assassination, the girl in North Carolina, and of course the guy on the South Side that was stomped to death. So,
and not to mention some of our political figures across the country too that have either had assassination attempts or have actually been killed. When you talk about this security, can you walk me through what you feel like would be suitable security for all of the alders, and especially the two that you've mentioned?
Well, I think for city council, it's a simple solution. I mean, they're right there. They could touch us, put a plexiglass up, just like it is upstairs. You have the window. Nobody could be there. So they're there. They're sitting there watching. But unfortunately, there would be a plexiglass or glass or whatever, bulletproof glass, whatever you want to say, separating us from the people sitting out in the city council. It's a simple solution. I mean, it's not. We need more security, because security can't do nothing if somebody, brings a brick and then throws it and hits somebody in the head, or somebody sneaks a weapon in. So the easy thing to do would just be put the plexiglass/bulletproof glass, and unfortunately we'd be separated from the people. But we have to do what's safe, for my colleagues.
Yeah, we are in, like you said, very heated times right now, and it seems very sensible to me. Let me ask you this, because as an alder, you are in the community. You're out and about. You have to be places. You go to events. You host and have events in the community. We see that the mayor has an extensive security team when he's out and about and when he's literally inside of his home. We could say the same thing for our governor. What do you think about security in terms of when you're just out doing your daily activities, your job, and living your life as well?
I am not remotely worried about that in my community. Maybe sometimes downtown, some people have seen me. People know who I am. They know I'm a big righty, and they'll just say some nasty stuff to me, but that's not about the extent of it. But I'm not remotely concerned when I'm in my own community. But certainly for the mayor and the governor, I'd be very concerned for them. They certainly need security. It's unfortunate, but this is the world we live in now.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody at this point, you would have to live under a rock, right, to know or not know what's happened in Utah. Let me ask you this, in light of that situation as well, because there's been so many different situations now that have popped up across our country. What do you think is the resolution here? How do we reach a point where there's I don't want to say a middle ground, because I don't think people will ever completely agree, but where you don't take it to the rise of violence?
Yeah, well, I guess maybe you could say the politicians are part of the blame for some of the stuff they're saying. We know some of the past things that Democrats were saying about President Trump and Republicans, and we know some of the things that righties did at the Capitol building, and I'm guilty of it sometimes myself. I call these these left people, lefty loons and terrorists and socialists and communists. So maybe I'm part of the blame also. But maybe we all need to stop the name calling. I'm just as guilty as anybody. And maybe that's the thing. But we also need tougher laws. I mean, people know there's no consequences. There's no consequences at City Hall for the things that people do. So maybe there needs to be more consequences. And personally, I think the reason crime's gone down a bit is because of the new superintendent and the new state's attorney. That certainly has helped. I think they're a little bit tougher on crime. So maybe we're chipping away in Chicago. I don't know, we're chipping away in the country, but people are just so angry nowadays for no reason, just for a difference of opinion, which is sad.
I appreciate what you said there because, Alderman, I've talked to a lot of people on all different parts of the aisle, and oftentimes they don't own their part in any of it. And everybody has a role to play. And you're saying that, you take a little responsibility for some of the things that you've said. Is there anything that you think on a political front that we can all do differently to change the course? Because as of right now, we are down a very dangerous path. I think we can all admit that in the United States. Anybody that's watching right now, what suggestion would you give to change the course of where our country is, not headed, is?
Well, personally, I'm a Christian, so I think they need God in their life. They need to go to church a little bit more. I certainly think that would help people with their anger. People just talk more to people, work things out. I don't know why, we get a lot of angry calls in our office with a lot of neighbor wars things. It's kind of hard to believe. You live next door to a neighbor and you hate each other and you're battling all the time. But people just need to talk and understand and be patient with each other. I mean, that's really about it.
Let me ask you this final question before I let you go. Have you heard from the superintendent on your letter? And then what are the next steps that you're going to go with this?
I didn't hear from it. I'm not the maker. Ray was the maker. I don't know who he's going to call. I did plan on calling the mayor this weekend just to say, Mayor, there's a simple solution. I understand you don't want to do this, but I think now at this point in time, we're going to have to put some sort of, like I say, bulletproof glass, plexiglass up, something like that to protect him and the council from doing something really crazy.
I appreciate you being candid with us on this program. Nick Sposato, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And be safe. Well wishes to you. Be safe. That is very important.
Thanks for having me on the show. Best wishes to you also.
Absolutely. We'll see you. I'm sure again, we'll be talking about something else, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Anyone that is watching Chicago Live, we appreciate you tuning in, and we have a whole lot more coming up right here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are going to talk with the Gurnee Police Department, specifically Detective Sean Gaylor. They have launched a drone first responder program. Detective, are you there? I think you may be muted. Can you hear me? Oh, no, I hear you. You're fine. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me this afternoon.
Let's talk about this program and why the department felt a need to go and get this really high-tech drone.
Well, drone and policing is not a new concept, right? We actually have 2 other drones in our fleet, but the drone as a first responder program is a completely new initiative. It's technology-based, and what really makes it different is that this drone sits on top of our local fire department roof, and it's enclosed within a temperature encapsulated box that basically allows it to fly in any weather condition, whether it's raining or snowing. And as we know, Chicago weather is temperamental. So regardless of the weather conditions, an officer from inside the police department can pinpoint a location on a map, and the drone will autonomously go into flight and go to that location. And one of the other benefits of this drone is that it can usually get to the location before the officers can arrive via vehicle.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this, considering what you just said, the drone arrives first, police are on the way. Is that information transmitted back to police, maybe of what exactly the drone is seeing?
Exactly. So typically, as I mentioned, once we put that pinpoint on the map, the officer at the computer terminal can actually see what the drone is seeing in real time. Additionally, officers who are en route can pull up that video and also see what's happening. So the benefit of this is the drone coming to the location, checking out the scene, whether it's a crime in progress, maybe we can get eyes on the suspect right away, or maybe there's a vehicle involved that we want to get a description of the vehicle, possibly a license plate. There's Zoom technology in this drone so that we can see all of those details, relay it back to the officers and our communications team, and make sure that everybody is aware of what they're running into.
Right, or walking into, because sometimes you just never know. Now, walk me through, since this isn't your first drone, kind of tell me how drones have helped the department so far.
So we launched our drone as a first responder program about 2 weeks ago, and already we've seen at least 2 cases where this has been a significant impact in our ability to do our job. One of the first is we had a hit and run DUI driver. The driver, who was in fact DUI, left the scene. The drone was able to be within a proximity of that vehicle within moments, literally seconds. It was able to get eyes on that vehicle, follow the vehicle as it was driving away from the scene, and give officers real-time location updates so that they could follow that vehicle, make a stop, and ultimately make the arrest. Another great example is we actually had an autistic child who ran away from home. The parents were unaware of where he went, but knows that he loves trains. So we put the drone up immediately. We kind of checked around the train tracks, and we were able to locate him walking along the train tracks. The other benefit here is that because of the debris and the brush around the train tracks, it took officers over 10 minutes by foot in order to reach him, but we could keep eyes on the autistic child until the officers could get there.
Yeah, that's a case where obviously this drone really comes in handy. Let me ask you this, because when it comes to crime and things happening, sometimes it seems like, depending on, different spots of town, etc., it really gets going at night. How does this drone operate in darkness?
It's fantastic. So we actually have some videos up on our website that show this, but the technology behind the drone has really come a long way. So we have infrared technology and heat sensor capabilities that will show people at night or heat signatures at night. So if we're looking for a missing individual, or we have active crimes happening in our town and we want to see how many people are potentially involved in this, we can actually see the heat signatures of the people in the area, and that'll help us pinpoint exactly where we're going and what we're looking for.
Wow. How much does a drone like this cost?
Well, it's expensive technology, but again, it's to help us and help the community. Our whole goal is to keep everybody as safe as possible and ultimately help our officers stay safe while doing the job that they've signed up to do. So the drone really helps us in both of those aspects. So yes, it is expensive technology, but at the end of the day, it's worth it because we've already been seeing the success within the first 2 weeks.
You're right. Saving a life, protecting people, really no price tag on that. Let me ask you this, because the department is already invested in this advanced technology, is there anything else on the horizon?
We're always looking for new improvements in technology. We like to be at the forefront of that because we've seen great benefits in it. So we've had body cam videos for years. We've had the drone program since 2016. So we're always keeping a pulse on what's coming and upcoming and trying to stay ahead of technology. We know that technology isn't perfect, which is why we need to test it out. And the drone as a first responder program is kind of our big initiative to kind of test out where technology is going and where we can go in the future.
I know you said it's in this box, so it can fly in the rain. It can fly in the snow. One of the biggest issues, even, commercial aircraft in our area will sometimes have the wind. They don't call it the Windy City for nothing. When it comes to wind, how does this drone operate? Can it handle the wind?
It can handle the wind under certain circumstances. So if it's 60 mile per hour winds, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but there is still a drone operator who uses a device very similar to like a game controller to fly the drone. So if they're recognizing that there are some difficulties with the weather conditions, we could go to our backup resources. But we have been reassured that a lot of these weather conditions that we experience here in Chicago can withstand what the drone is capable of doing.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And you mentioned there are videos. Where can people go see some of the videos of how this tech really works?
So we have links available through our Gurnee Police Department Facebook page, or it's on our Village of Gurnee website. We have links directly to a couple of videos that kind of show you what the technology is capable of doing, as well as an example of how we might use this technology to help us solve crime.
Absolutely wonderful. What has the response been like from the community? And the only reason I ask that, because with new things, people aren't used to it. You may see that and be like, well, who's flying this drone in my neighborhood? What has the response been from residents of Gurnee?
So far, it's been overwhelmingly positive. We understand that there are some concerns with drones and drones flying overhead. We have 18 officers who are FAA certified to fly these drones. And those are the only people flying these drones. So we also have to follow the state statute that is in place for these drones as a first responder program. So all of that is being, audited. We are making sure we're following those safety protocols. And our main priority is safety of life, right? So we're only responding to 911 emergencies or in cases of where we have special events. Maybe there's a parade in town and we want to do a double check of the area to make sure security hasn't been breached. At the end of the day, it's all about safety and security, and that's really the purpose behind the drone. And we're looking forward to utilizing that in the future as we move forward with the program.
Absolutely. Eyes in the sky obviously can make a huge difference. You can see, if there's someone on a building, if there's someone hiding behind some brush. Absolutely. I understand it. I would love to do a story on it, and hopefully we could make that happen. Detective Sean Gaylor, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We'd love to have you up and show you exactly how it works. So I look forward to it.
Don't tip me for a good time. I'll definitely be there. And I look forward to coming and spending some time with the department. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So coming up next, if you're on Facebook and you've been a part of this Facebook settlement, you may be getting paid. We're going to talk to attorney Dahlia Saper all about it right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Facebook will soon begin issuing payments to millions of users. This is all part of a $725 million settlement over claims, really, that the social media platform misused some of the user data. And joining us now to talk about this is Dahlia Saper with Saper Law. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks again for having me. It's always fun to be on.
I know, and this is one of those stories that anytime we post it, anytime we tell people that you may be getting paid from anybody, no matter if it's Facebook or whomever, people definitely start reading that article. What happened in this particular case?
So this is a long-standing class action lawsuit that involves the allegation that Facebook was kind of cavalier, essentially, with the way that it allowed third parties to use their API in order to manipulate that data, use that data for a purpose that was not fully disclosed and authorized by the average Facebook user. And it really all came to head with the Cambridge Analytica firm that used and hired developers to extract a lot of detailed information about people on Facebook in order to manipulate political campaigns or, again, harvest that data for a purpose that was separate from, hey, Facebook needs your info in order to make Facebook function. So this is not a data breach case. It's not a Biometric Information Privacy Act case. It's really a consolidation of several cases involving the failure, essentially, to disclose the nature of the information that was being shared with third parties like Cambridge Analytica.
Has anything changed in terms of Facebook when it comes to disclosing that to users?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Facebook has more robust privacy policies, disclosures. It's in fact obligated to be far more transparent, as all social media platforms and even small business websites have to be now. We've got European privacy laws, international privacy laws, and even new state laws that govern the collection, dissemination, and really disclosure of individuals' private information. And private information can be as simple as, your IP address, where you're located, how often you interact with the site, and of course, your name, your address, and so forth. Anything that's really personally identifying.
Let me ask you this, because I'm looking at some information here. It says anyone in the United States who used Facebook between May 24th of 2007 and December 22nd of 2022 are eligible to be included in this settlement. Do we know how many people this actually impacts?
Well, this case is really notable because of the sheer number of people it might affect. And I think when I looked at the numbers last, 28 million people have already registered to try to get a piece of that $750 million settlement. So there's $725 million settlement. The payout's going to be fairly small in light of the large number of people who are signing up to get their check. On average, you might get $28 to $29. Big chunk of that 725 goes to the lawyers. About $180 million of it goes to the attorneys that brought this case, which a lot of articles and news media is highlighting. But ultimately, if you get the message that says you might be eligible, there's a point system. It's based on how long you were a user and whether you were a user during the relevant time period, which was 2007 to 2022. And based on their spreadsheet, their calculation, you'll get a check. It could be as small as $5. It could be, as much as $38. The lead plaintiffs in the case are getting about $15,000.
Let me ask you this, Attorney Saper, because when I hear $725 million, I think, whoa, that is a heck of a lot of money. Facebook will still exist. What do you make of that they can just shell out? And this is not the first time that they've had to pay out money for something. What do you make of that they can pay out $725 million and still it's business as usual?
I'll say it's not always business as usual. You're dealing with platforms and really novel issues. I think it's unprecedented that we have ways to really aggregate this much data from one platform in one place. And so while I think we want to vilify the social media platforms, and there's always this push and pull, at the end of the day, these are new business models. They have achieved extraordinary kind of almost utility status with the average person. I'm not even going to say American. So inevitably, you're going to have these types of legal issues. And Facebook, as much as they can afford maybe to pay these out, they can't afford the public backlash that is, people concerned about the platform's privacy. Right when the suit was filed and the Cambridge Analytica scandal came out, there was a big departure from the platform. So I think it's again, this push and pull. You want the platform to continue to operate, to innovate, but you also need laws and restrictions on what they're able to collect, how they're able to collect it, and to be transparent to the users about, what happens if I do interact with this site.
Let me ask you this. Google, it came out a few days ago that Google must pay $425 million in class action over privacy. What makes the case that we're talking about, the settlement with Facebook, different from what is unfolding with Google?
These are all different fact scenarios. The damages and the amount is really fact specific. It depends on how many users it impacted, what the egregiousness level might be. They're sometimes they're easy to compare, sometimes they're not. I would say in these situations, it's more about like what was the level of knowledge, complicity with of the platform, with respect to that particular case.
Let me ask you something. This is a little off topic, and if it goes too far off topic, you can tell me. But I'm just thinking about the totality of what has been unfolding in our country the last few days. We had a situation, and I'm sure you've seen it, being that you're in this space, of one of the people that were taken into custody for this Charlie Kirk killing had nothing to do with it. It explodes on social media. People are sharing the person's picture. People are sharing the person's address where they live. Is there any recourse for that person to regain, who they were before all of this? They had nothing to do with it. From a social media perspective, is there anything that can be done to really, I guess, prove that this person is now innocent from a legal perspective?
Well, that's a great question. You've got from a legal perspective, you've got from the court of public opinion. And so oftentimes when clients tell me they've been misrepresented online or by news reporters, the first question is who made the misrepresentation? If it's in the context of a legal investigation, sometimes you're out of luck. If you become a limited public figure, meaning that you're a regular person, but suddenly you're in the spotlight because of a notable event, you may also be out of luck. So legally, you can attempt to bring a defamation claim, but reporters and news outlets are usually shielded if they are just merely reporting what law enforcement has done. But if someone was to maliciously lie about that person's involvement in a crime, that is the subject and grounds for a defamation lawsuit in most states.
Let me ask you
this. Not every state.
Yeah, very good point you bring up there. Let me ask you about that, a little bit deeper into that. Because, for example, we're going to just make up a name because we don't want to be held liable for anything. Jane Doe, okay? Jane Doe is a person taken into custody. Turns out Jane Doe had nothing to do with it. You search Jane Doe's name, it is everywhere. Jane Doe needs a job. Jane Doe goes to try to get a job. And if said employer searches, their name is now attached with that thing, crime, whatever. Is there anything that Jane Doe can do to get that information pulled off the internet?
Very hard. The answer is probably no, because to the extent it is factually reported that she was maybe not ultimately charged, but initially arrested or whatever the allegation might be, her best recourse is to launch a counter PR campaign to flood the internet with what is actually the truth, that this was an improper allegation against me, because the legal recourse is expensive, time consuming, and oftentimes unpredictable.
And I'm sure with all of this stuff happening, social media is so interesting. With all of this stuff happening, I'm sure it is definitely keeping you in business because so many different things pop up every single day. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, 20 years in, I mean, the firm was founded really right when Facebook was in its infancy. And since I founded the firm in 2005, I've been on panels addressing all the different ways these social media platforms affect our lives and could really invade our lives in a way that we may not expect or want. There are new ways to sabotage, namely using social media, whether it's using fake accounts or soliciting fraudulent donations or promoting products without fully disclosing that they've paid endorsements. So yes, there's always something novel and interesting happening because of, I would say, social media's ubiquity.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking to you again because there's a lot to talk about. Attorney Saper with Saper Law, thank you for being with us and have a great weekend. Good weekend to you.
Thank you for having me. You too.
All right.
Bye.
It's always a pleasure. See you next time. Okay, stay with Chicago Live. We'll have much more coming up right after this break. It is 1:56 on your Friday afternoon. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to get out to Utah right now. This is Washington, Utah, that you are taking a live look at right now. We are actually on the block of this suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk. His home is not too far away from what you're looking at right now. This is the home of 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. We do know that the media there on the ground was just pushed back by police as they continue their investigation. They are obviously investigating inside of his home, and so the media was pushed back from this location, but this is on the ground just steps away from where the suspect lives in Washington, Utah. Of course, we expect to learn a whole lot more as this investigation continues to unfold. And of course, you can stay with us on fox32chicago.com, Fox Local, and on air for more developments. But I want to bring it back local right now. This is Friday night lights in a lot of places, right? Of course, we're talking about high school football. There is a big game that is going on this weekend, and that is the Downers Grove North team going against Hinsdale Central. And joining us now is head coach Joe. I'm going to call you head coach Joe because I don't want to botch your last name. Give me your last name.
It's been botched before. It's been botched before. That's okay. Hareni is the last name.
Rennie, look at that. Okay, all right. I think I can handle that. Coach, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having it. It's always good to talk about our football program and a great program, too, like Hinsdale Central.
Let's talk about it. Okay, so you are number 5. That's your ranking status. What did it take to get there? How long have you been building up this team?
Downers Grove North has been a really good football program for a long time. And I've been here for 8 years, but they've had great success prior to me. We have a lot of seniors who have played a lot of good football for us, a lot of 3-year starters. But, no, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of great assistant coaches and great community buy-in. So, no, we're excited for where the program's at right now, for sure.
You know, I remember my days many, many, many years ago of high school rivalries, high school football rivalries. How fun are they and exciting to see the community come out for games like this?
No, Friday Night Lights are great, especially when it's a storied game like this. This game's been played since 1935. Every year except for the 2020 season that didn't happen and we didn't get to play them in that short spring COVID season. So since 1935, people have been playing for the bucket and the old Oaken bucket that we've been fortunate enough to win the last 3 years. But Hinsdale Central is a great team and they always bring a great crowd. And we're looking forward to tonight. It's going to be a great event.
All right. So what can we expect to see from the Trojans tonight?
I think you'll see a team that flies around and plays good defense. We look to be opportunistic on offense, run when the defense allows us to give us an opportunity to run and pass when they, kind of give us a look to pass. So try to be diversified on offense and play physical defense for sure and win in the kicking game, although they have a really good kicker as well.
When I look at, obviously, where you're ranked, okay, you're 5. Hinsdale Central is 18. What is the challenge here for your team tonight against Hinsdale Central?
Very dynamic quarterback, well-coached team, always play great on defense and offense. A lot of solid players. They have some Big Ten recruits as well. So we got to find a way to contain their quarterback, and we have to find a way to win the line of scrimmage on the offensive side to try to run the football and keep the clock moving.
Let's talk about that. You mentioned that about their players in college and all of that. Let's talk about your players and some of where your players have landed outside of high school.
So, we have a few different kids that are playing at high levels right now. One of our former players is a linebacker at Iowa State. Cale Brazina was a great football player for us. We have a lot of kids that have gone on to play D3 football. We have 4 kids that are at Wisconsin Whitewater. We have another young man who's at Western Illinois whose brother plays in the NFL for the Bills. So he was before my time, but the Edwards family has always been a good football family for DGN. So that's where Joe's at right now too. How exciting is it, I should ask, being that you are the head coach, you are responsible for leading this team. You're 5. We're still kind of early here. These numbers could go up. How exciting is it for you? It's exciting, and our kids are certainly excited, and the community is. But maybe it's me, or maybe it's the mentality of our staff. Is we try to take it one day at a time, one game at a time, and try to focus on what our job is this week, and take care of what we can, and let the rankings come out, and people say what they want to say about where they feel like we fit.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to guess that you're a Chicago Bears fan. Any thoughts as the Bears head over? Go ahead.
No, I definitely am.
Any thoughts as they head to Detroit? Any thoughts that you can share publicly as they head to Detroit to take on the Lions?
Just rooting for them, trying to take care of business with those guys. They're my entertainment on the weekends while I'm not working on football. So cheer them on for sure. And it's obviously a good Lions football team, but we're going to turn the corner. I got a good feeling about the Bears this year. We'll make it happen.
Hopefully they improve and end up kind of like your high school team. That would be exciting. Let me ask you this. How did you find yourself being a coach? How did you find yourself being in this position?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Downers Grove. I did go to Downers Grove South, but I had a great experience playing football as a high school student, and went on to play in college and had great mentors, and really wanted to find a way to not only stay in the game, but also find a way to help, give back to the community that I grew up in, and give back to, a profession that people gave to me as coaches and teachers, and kind of found my niche in that regard. So it's a great place to work. It's a great profession. There's certainly ups and downs, but it's a great job. And yeah, a lot of mentors along the way that have helped guide me for sure.
Let me ask you this. Number 5, tell me kind of like the routine, what has happened and what happens, during the course of the week to keep your players fit, to keep your players learning the game.
Yeah, so the day after a game, provided we play on Friday night, we bring the kids in, get a stretch, get a workout in, watch game film of the previous opponent, kind of work on things or look at things that we've had success with or things that we need to improve on. Coaches will meet on Sundays and develop a game plan for the following week, play JV game on Monday, and kind of a prep day for our varsity kids. And then Tuesday and Wednesday are usually pretty hard work days in terms of install, and there's a little bit more physicality on Tuesday and Wednesday just to prep for the week. And then Thursday is kind of a refresher day. It's more of a mental day, and then get ready for Friday night and repeat the whole thing over again.
I only ask that question because I think sometimes people kind of lose sight of what high school players have to go through. And the reason why I say that is because not only are you learning the game of, your sport, whatever that sport is, but you still have to be a student at the same time. And it can be a very competitive schedule that some of these students have. And so to be that dedicated to something shows, how hard these student athletes really work.
For sure, definitely. I mean, we talk about it all the time that, they're representing a program, but we also understand that it's harder to be a student nowadays and a kid nowadays with all the stressors that they're going through whilst trying to be, great students and taking care of their family and being a great family member and things like that. So we definitely understand the demands that are on the kids. And it does show that, they're willing to commit to this, a 6-day-a-week, 7-day-a-week thing. And they make it important to them. And hopefully they bring that, with them for the rest of their lives, like making something important, valuing it, and putting hard work into it.
What time is the game?
Time's at 7:30.
7:30. So you got a little over 5 hours, Coach, to get it all together, get the kids together. We appreciate you coming on, talking a little sports with me. Go Bears. I think we can agree on that.
We can agree. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to say also go Buckeyes because usually I run into people that say go Blue, and I always love that debate as well.
I'm good either way for those. I'm good either way there.
Okay, you're my guy then. Okay, we can agree on something. We agree on a lot. Coach, thank you so much. Horini, look at that. I got it right. Coach Horini, thank you so much for being with us.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you allowing us to come on and talk about DGN.
Absolutely. Go Trojans. Pull out the win. I hope Hinsdale Central, they don't come after me. I hope you guys have a good game tonight as well. Thank you, Coach. Have a great weekend. Have a great game. Stick with us on Chicago Live. We'll have some more content for you right after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 2:11 on your Friday, and maybe you're ready to get out there and celebrate. It's 1 o'clock somewhere. If you're going out this weekend, you may want to kind of move those fall clothes out the way, Mark Strell.
At least for a while.
Yeah, get you some Daisy Dukes. It's going to be warm.
Well,
it's going to be warm outside.
Not only for the weekend, but really going out all the way through the 7-day forecast. We've got temperatures at least in the low 80s and a lot of mid 80s and average high temperature upper 70s. So we're going to be a little bit warmer than normal, and we're going to be warmer than normal at night. Like overnight low temperatures might only be in the 60s like summertime.
Wow.
But here's what you need to know, especially coming up for this weekend. We've got a chance of some showers and thunderstorms from late tonight throughout the day tomorrow, and then again as we head into the evening tomorrow night. So if you've got stuff and you're still in the planning stages, I know some people plan 3 weeks ahead of time. Other people, more like me, like, hey, what's going on? I don't know.
Just show up somewhere.
And Sunday's the day to show up because Sunday looks gorgeous again. Sunshine's back along with the 80s. But tomorrow, some showers and thunderstorms around. And, of course, I'll be here, well, there, or somewhere. Yeah, to kind of keep you ahead of that.
So earlier in the week, when we were looking at the forecast, it looked like the percentage of the rain, it was a lower percent. Is there a higher percentage of rain now?
It's spiked up. Mike Kaplan and I were just having a conversation just a little bit ago about how it looks like, this thing has really kind of evolved a little bit more in the last 18 hours or so. So it looks much more definite that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms. And, there's two different time periods where we kind of flip the script, as it were. You go from season to season, and they are spring, which we know spring has a lot of stormy conditions. Yeah. The other time is fall, where you have kind of two different elements fighting back and forth. You've got colder temperatures up north, and you've got warmer temperatures to the south, and one's trying to, like two kids on the block, they're trying to like swap each other out. And so fall, not normally known for a lot of severe weather, and I'm not saying we're going to have severe weather tomorrow, but we'll have some showers and thunderstorms. So fall not normally known as that kind of a severe time period, but it does have kind of the same dynamic as spring, just not so much involved.
You know your stuff. So here's my question. Is this considered to be an unseasonably warm trend that we're having?
I would say so.
Typical?
Yeah, because it has really been a very, I hear this all the time from people. It's been a long, hot summer. We've had warm, not necessarily breaking records all the time, but we have been above average. And it has been so humid this summer, too. I mean, you just go out. I mean, your hair gets all boinky.
I'm there right
mine,
now.
It does, And so, it's been a very warm, tepid. And now we had that little cool down last weekend. And everyone's like, oh, summer's over. It's like, no, it's not. We just got into September. We still likely have a 90-degree day coming at some point. Certainly, temperatures in the upper 80s coming our way. And certainly, we're back into the 80s this next week.
Yeah, we were just looking at that live look there. It was absolutely beautiful. So are you telling me that people need to prepare for a little rain tomorrow if they're going out to some of these outdoor events?
Yeah, I think definitely. In fact, there could be some pretty heavy downpours in some cases. We could see over a half inch of rain, which is a pretty decent amount for this time of year. And basically from across all of Chicago, it looks like we could see. Now, you get out west, northwestern Illinois, I think they missed the rain. Out west of Interstate 39, looks a lot drier. But here in the city, it looks like we'll have some clusters of showers moving through.
The reason why I bring that up is because we had a guest on another day part that we had talking about the Inglewood Music Festival. They are expecting a lot of people to be out there, a lot of different stars taking the stage. They may need to be with umbrellas in tow.
Yeah, you might need the Vis Queen over the soundboard. That's all I'm saying. Just have the plastic ready, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And then after this, what happens? Do we know kind of what it looks like as we move into next week? Is it still 80s?
Yeah, all next week we're talking about temperatures in the 80s, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I've got sunshine Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday looks like maybe a few extra clouds, but we're pretty much dry the rest of the week. So it really... summertime's not over yet.
Yeah, and that tells me some people, not saying that work here, okay, probably won't be coming into work every single day.
Yeah, some
next
folks,
week.
they were like, hey, I got that vacation time I need to burn. I didn't go anywhere this year. I'm going to burn it this week, right?
Yeah, they take it. All right, Mark, it's always a pleasure.
PTO prevents PTSD. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, it does. And keeps you sane.
Yes, it does.
Mark Strell, I love you so much. You already know that. We always have good conversations about everything.
I love this lady.
Yeah, you're one of the best to ever do it. I don't care what anybody says. Okay?
Anybody.
Nobody speaks bad about him. Everybody loves him. All right, look at that. All those people over there at the beach, the tourists. Well, yeah, and we know that, especially around Thursday, Friday, if you work downtown, that's when you start to see the tourists like, where am I? Right. Looking around. So we expect this, and it's a beautiful sight to see. We live in a beautiful city.
And that's the question I always get here on the weekends. Hey, which way's the bean? Well, just go there, turn left. You'll find it.
Right, you'll find it. You'll run into it somehow.
How they keep the fingerprints off the bean, I will never know.
I was out there one time. This is an interesting story. This is when I worked as a morning reporter here at Fox 32. I was out there. Somebody did something stupid, decided to write on the bean, wrote some stupid stuff on the bean, and they dipped this towel in some solution. And within, I'm not even kidding, it was as if you blinked and you missed it.
Really?
It got it out right away.
You should have found out what that was. I could use that around the kitchen.
No, it probably would put a hole in your countertop. But it was very interesting to see. Yeah. They came, and it almost looked like something out of a movie. They came in I don't want to say it was hazmat suits, but it kind of did look like that. And they were holding this chemical in a bucket thing, and I was like, wow. So there are people that work to make sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
The bean is shining bright under sunny conditions.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thank you, Mark. It is amazing.
Wow.
I got plenty of stories.
Yes, you do.
We're going to tell some more right after this break. Don't go anywhere. Thank you, Mark. Moving right on through the 2 o'clock hour of Chicago Live. It is 2:19 on your Friday afternoon, and we're going to speak with Mark Gannis. He is a sports business expert and president and co-founder of Sports Corp Limited. Thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
We got to talk about this. This is really interesting. Governor J.B. Pritzker coming out with a message for the Chicago Bears. Let's talk about what that message is and what the governor is demanding.
Well,
go ahead.
So for me, it looked like the governor in Spring Chicago business seems to be saying that he wants the Bears to pay off or arrange to pay off the debt on Soldier Field for the renovations of Soldier Field that have been refinanced by the city as a condition of the state talking about assisting with infrastructure and property tax relief or caps for the Bears to move to Arlington Heights, which is a creative approach on the part of the governor, kind of a I've never heard of this before, but it seems it's kind of like a renter renting a house for 30 years, and then when you leave, the homeowner says, "Oh, by the way, pay off my mortgage as part of you stopping to rent my house, and oh, by the way, I refinanced it a couple of times while you were renting it from me." It seems a very I've never heard of anything like this before in the sports industry. It seems like a very strange request for the governor to make.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how unusual is this, and what kind of money are we talking about?
Well, they're at this stage, there are about $400 million of bonds outstanding, but you should know that the way the deal was originally crafted, there should have been virtually no bonds remaining at the end of the Bears lease term. It was supposed to be self-amortizing over the course of the term. And remember that the Bears payments were not what was paying off the bonds. It was the 2% hotel motel tax in Cook County that were in the downtown area that were paying off the bonds. And so there was no connection between the Bears lease payments or money coming in from Soldier Field to pay off these Illinois sports facility bonds. So for the governor to now make a connection between the Bears to somehow be obligated to pay these bonds off when there was never any connection between the two, even from the first day that the deal was done, seems a little bit odd, and certainly unprecedented.
But timely, right? I think this is a move, because the Bears have basically come out and said that they are going to Arlington Heights and planning to move ahead with that. Do you think what the governor has put on the table now limits the Bears from being able to go to Arlington Heights?
No, and as a matter of fact, I've got to tell you, if the politicians don't start acting a little more reasonable and realistic, they may find that the Bears start looking elsewhere. I mean, they could look outside of Cook County. They could look outside of the state of Illinois and look at Northwest Indiana. And then they're going to say, whoa, what just happened here? How could the Bears leave us? It wouldn't be that the Bears left you. It's that you forced them out by these, frankly, ludicrous demands.
So, given what you just said there, what do you think the governor's position should be at this point in time?
Look, the governor's position should be what the Bears have said, that they will pay the entirety of the stadium. That is a great starting point. All that they've asked for is property tax certainty and for infrastructure improvements. Infrastructure improvements are the kinds of things that any business that's going to invest $3 billion in the state would be reasonably requested by the state. And I think the governor has said something to that effect already. The property tax caps, the reality is, there's no stadium in the country that has ever resulted in a single additional student in going to school. So it doesn't increase any school costs. It doesn't increase pretty much any other costs. But they're saying they will pay more money than Arlington Park ever paid in property taxes. Work out a deal on the property tax cap. Just work it out. And negotiate it. If you want to negotiate aggressively, negotiate it aggressively. But have there be some certainty associated with it. And the Bears have said they'll pay for the whole stadium themselves. That would be an incredible deal for the state and for Cook County, which will continue to get all of the amusement tax and all the other taxes that are being created. And Chicago will get most of the hotel and restaurant money for the events that would wind up going, the major events that will wind up going out to Arlington Heights. And then the other part of this is, what do you do with Soldier Field? There are so many opportunities to create something very special at Soldier Field. Take all that asphalt in the parking lots, make it into green grass, make this the greatest festival area any major city has ever had, extend it all the way out to Northerly Island. Don't tear down Soldier Field. Keep it for summer concerts. Make a lot of money off of it. Keep the suites, the scoreboards, the advertising, and the suites, and have the city take all the revenue from those things. And then take the money from the Bears for terminating the lease early, And then you create something very special that no other major city in the country has. It becomes a win-win for everyone, but there's a parochial feeling going on here that is very odd. As somebody who's worked on 24 successful sports facility projects, this is a very strange situation. The city was given every opportunity to come up with a plan that could keep the Bears in Chicago. They did not. Okay, well, then the Bears have an alternative, staying within Cook County. And somehow there's a feeling that they need to be held up in some manner. It's a very strange thing. I've never seen this before, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is a very strange scenario. What do you think should be happening now? The Bears have made it clear that they plan to build, it sounds like, over in Arlington Heights. Fine. What do you think should be happening now, I guess, with our political leaders to ensure that at least what's going on over at Soldier Field is productive in the future, like you mentioned, making it a world-class concert venue?
Yeah, well, that should be where the focus is. If the Bears have said they're going to go to Arlington Heights and pay for their own stadium and operating their own stadium, wonderful. That's a multi-billion-dollar investment in the state of Illinois by a private entity. Then focus on what can be done very cost effectively for not just Soldier Field, but that entire museum campus area going all the way out to Northerly Island. Returning that area to what the Friends of the Park have talked about, which is this whole, the Lakefront Protection Ordinance. Make that whole area open for the people of Chicago to be able to use all year round, especially during the spring and summer. And now, as we just heard, this beautiful early fall, September type time frame. And so that it becomes something that we could all use and enjoy without spending huge amounts of money. There's really a great opportunity to do something very special. But instead, they're focused on this, this intramural fight that just seems very foolish as somebody who works on these things all around the country. And there should be a much better way to handle this, especially now that you've got, for example, the Chicago Fire saying that they're going to build their own soccer stadium on the 78. The city and the state are going to have to figure out what they're going to do with the White Sox, whose lease expires in 2030 as well. So there are lots of other things that need to get done. And instead, they've got this food fight going on with the Bears, who are saying they're going to invest $3 billion in Cook County and keep the team right here in Cook County.
Let me ask you something. With all of what's going on, all these different pieces at play, it basically sounds like a lot of people don't really have their eyes particularly on the prize. If action doesn't happen soon to kind of figure out what's going to happen with Soldier Field, what does that mean for the city of Chicago? If we wait, if the wait continues to figure out what happens there?
Oh, a number of things. What the state should not want to have happen, what Cook County should not want to have happen, is that because of the delays, the Bears open the door to what other options may be available, whether that be Lake County, Will County, whether that be Northwest Indiana, where the state recently passed legislation for a sports authority for Northwest Indiana, and I think to try and target getting the Bears and or the White Sox. So there may be great offers provided that when right now the Bears are not looking at, but if they're forced to open the door, some offers may come in that they wind up taking. And that could be really bad for Cook County, conceivably really bad for the state of Illinois.
Mark Gannis, you know your stuff, okay? So we can't refute that. Let me ask you this. When you look at major league sports that have maybe started in a major city and decided to kind of go to the outskirts, or even a stadium in a city that decided to kind of move to another part of town, what teams do you think of?
Well, in the NFL, most of the teams have their stadiums outside of town. The Dallas Cowboys play in a stadium in Arlington. The New England Patriots play in Foxborough. The Buffalo Bills play in Orchard Park. The New York Jets and the New York Giants play in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers play in Irwindale. The San Francisco Giants play in Santa Clara. Are you starting to get the picture? Almost all NFL teams play in a suburban location. And it works out very well for everyone involved, because the major events that will then take place, the national and international events, the core, the urban core, the city itself is the primary beneficiary for hotel room usage, for restaurants, for the cultural events that take place, and it still gets the top billing because it is, the Dallas Cowboys, it is the San Francisco Giants, it is the New York Jets and the New York Giants, it is the Buffalo Bills. So those are lots of examples that I've just given you of if you think about it, most of the teams in the NFL play in a suburban location. Some play in the city itself, but a lot of them play in suburban locations. It works just fine, and it works just fine for everyone involved. And if the Bears do go into the suburban location, as they've said, this is a lot of taxpayer savings for the city, for the county, for the state, versus what the cost would have been to build a stadium along the lakefront. And it then also provides revenue opportunities for the city and the park district by use of Soldier Field and this big festival area, if that's what they choose to do. And it provides a lot of other uses for that area by the residents of Chicago to use on a year-round basis, connecting Northerly Island, connecting the museum campus and Soldier Field, all with a contiguous, beautiful festival area. So there's a lot to be said for letting the Bears, helping the Bears go to Arlington Heights, rather than trying to force some sort of, squeezing them, shoehorning them into an area that they really shouldn't be in.
Yeah, some of those stadiums that you mentioned, I've had the pleasure to go to. And the first thing I think of when I think of a stadium that is outside of the city confines, I think of space, which is a very good point. Some of those stadiums that you mentioned, there's a lot of space when you're talking about, traffic getting in and out of town and those things. Mark Gannis, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Chicago Live continues. We have much more right after this break. Welcome back. We want to turn to an expert now. We've been talking about the killing of Charlie Kirk and really the investigation and what unfolds behind the scenes. We want to go now to an expert, Edward Davis. He is the former police commissioner of Boston. He was there during the Boston Marathon bombing. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good afternoon. My pleasure.
I know you run your own security firm now, and what has come out of the killing of Charlie Kirk is really all of the evidence, all of the public tips that were brought in. I think I heard something like 7,000 different tips that were sent into the FBI. Can you talk about how tips and really people on the ground help to identify at least a suspect?
Certainly. About 3 days into the incident, we had secured very clear video of the suspects. First, the younger brother, who turned out to be Joka, and then the older brother was finally identified in the extensive camera coverage, not only city cameras, but also business cameras and personal cell phones. So it took us a few days to sift through all that, and we had good images, but we really had no idea who these two individuals were. We tried facial recognition, but 13 years ago, it wasn't up to snuff. And so we had a debate about whether or not to release those photos. Over the years, police have been hesitant to do that, and we were sort of on the very cusp of making it a normal procedure in criminal cases. But finally, we got the pictures out there, and within 24 hours, it actually forced the suspects to move, and in moving, they were caught. So it was a very effective strategy for us in the Boston bombing case, and I can tell you that I can see the similarities and the benefit that it proved out in Utah.
When you talk about the similarities and really how it, identified someone in Utah, what do you make of the fact that a friend, it sounds like a roommate, and even possibly the father of this suspect were the people to really point law enforcement in the right direction?
I think over time, those are exactly the people who turn out and in most cases do the right thing. In the Sinayev case, 3 friends recognized their roommate in the pictures, but instead of reporting them to the police, they went to the roommate's room and they destroyed an enormous amount of evidence that was present in the room that would have tied him to the bombing. So they actually became accessories after the fact and were prosecuted and found guilty. In this particular case, thankfully, the father saw what was happening, confronted the son, and the son confessed to him. Then he did the right thing by getting the son into the system, probably out of concern for the fact that if he didn't turn himself in, he could very well have been injured or killed in any kind of apprehension effort. So it remains to be seen what went on with the roommate here. The roommate claims that there was a Discord conversation and communication from the suspect to the roommate about where the firearm was, maybe with an effort to try to either move it or conceal it. Whatever that turns out to be, whether or not he becomes an accessory after the fact is something we'll have to wait to see. But the bottom line is people did the right thing here and prevented further bloodshed.
Very good points there. Edward Davis, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much for lending some of your time to us.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. You take care as well. And stay with us. We will continue to have more coverage coming up right on the other side of this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 2:41. We want to talk to an important figure in the Bolingbrook community. Starting today, Friday through Sunday, there is a 3-day celebration to mark the 60th anniversary there. And Mary Alexander Basta, the mayor of Bolingbrook, who was sworn in to serve in 2020, elected in 2021, and then re-elected in 2025. She is also notably the first Egyptian woman elected as mayor in the U.S. Mayor, we want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about this parade. What can people expect at the parade this year?
It's going to be an amazing parade. I think we have over 50 entries this year highlighting our 60-year anniversary, sparkling memories with high school bands, nonprofit organizations. So it's really going to be a phenomenal parade, and it looks like it's going to be a hot one as well.
Mayor, let me ask you this. By it being hot, obviously we expect a decent amount of people to come out, right? But there has been a lot of talk about ICE agents being in and out of our communities. And I know your community is one of a large immigrant population. What are you saying to residents in your community right now?
Well, we ensure now and always, we ensure the safety of all the residents in the community always. So obviously we're taking precautionary actions to keep everyone on the parade route safe, to ensure that those that are in the parade as well as watching the parade are safe and secure. Our police department does a really good job of that. We do follow the Illinois Trust Act, and we will continue to do so.
Let me ask you this, Mayor. You obviously have really grown there in Bolingbrook. I've gone there to shop. It's been a massive, it seems like economic boom in terms of, major retailers coming there. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We're, again, a very diverse community. We're right off the I-55 and 355 expressway. We have IKEA, we have the Promenade, Costco. So many different big boxes, if you will, that attract people to our community. Plus we have the mom and shop and the diversity locations, whether it's a restaurant. We just cut a ribbon on a Filipino restaurant that's been very popular. So there's something for everyone here in Bolingbrook, and we're very proud of that, not just for the community, but also for the visitors.
Not too long ago on the news, we were talking about Bolingbrook being named one of the top 10 places to live in Illinois. What do you attribute that to?
I attribute that to the door-to-door diversity. We're not segmented. We're not pocketed into different ethnicities. We are door-to-door. So one neighbor, for example, I'm Egyptian. My neighbor next door is Italian. The other one is Indian. So just sharing that culture and getting to understand everyone is very important. Plus what we have to offer in terms of the housing market, anywhere from starter home to family home to 55 plus communities. We just have everything that you could possibly need in a community, not just to move into for starters, but also to grow into.
No, you're right. I have family that live in Bolingbrook, and their neighborhood is made up of everybody. And it's really nice to see nobody's marching to put a for sale sign in their yard to move. Everybody seems to be getting along in harmony. Let's talk about what's going on over these 3 days. You have the parade, and what else is unfolding?
So we actually are going to kick off this evening. As I look outside of my window, I see all of our vendors setting up. It's very exciting. Bounce houses are going up. Bingo tents are happening through our Lions Club. Lots of food vendors. And then, of course, there'll be entertainment on the stage this evening with live bands. Remember, all these activities are free. There's no charge to get in, but it's going to be a beautiful weekend. And then tomorrow it kicks off again with entertainment on the stage, trackless train, climbing wall for the kids, petting zoo, and just lots of activities for people of all ages to come out and enjoy. We do have some special surprises tomorrow evening, and then we're trying to attract more of that little bit of a younger crowd. So we do have the Taylor Swift tribute as our closing band for tomorrow night, and then we roll right into the parade on Sunday, and we'll have entertainment and awards presentation for floats right after that at Town Center. It's going to be 3 beautiful and amazing days of family fun for everyone.
Let me ask you this. In light of some of the things that have been going on across the country, obviously we've talked about Charlie Kirk that happened on a college campus. What about security measures in terms of, especially when you're talking about on that parade route?
So our police, like I said before, is, I think we have the absolute best police department there is. We are secure. They do check the routes before, during. They're completely on the routes. They're within the parade route. So I am confident and secure. And again, I'm trusting of our community, the community we live in. We all look out for each other. We all try to maintain safety with one another. So we do have security measures in place. But I'm confident that no one is going to want to put a damper on our 60-year anniversary celebration.
Yeah, I believe that too. Mayor, we want to thank you for joining us. All of this going down, I want to make sure I have this right, at 375 West Briarcliff Road. This is at the Bolingbrook Town Center. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct. And you can always go to our website, bolingbrook.gov. It has a full schedule of all the entertainment on stage and all the fun that we have going on.
Yeah, and I want to point out, I don't know if I said this, but I want to make sure that I mention it. Bolingbrook is considered to be one of the most diverse communities in our state. Mayor, we hope you have a great weekend. We hope every event goes off without a hitch and has a great time for the community there in Bolingbrook. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we got to talk about something that impacts a lot of communities, especially when you're talking about in the city of Chicago, and that is our rat population. And joining us now to discuss this is Stan Cope. Dr. Stan Cope is a PhD, former medical entomologist in the U.S. Navy. He is now serving as Director of Technical Services at Rose Pet Solutions. Thank you so much for your time.
Great to be here with you today.
Yeah, we're about to talk about rats. And I know a lot of people are like, what? Why are we talking about this? But the Chicago health officials here just released a health alert about leptospirosis. What is that, to begin with? What is leptospirosis?
It is a disease that occurs worldwide. It's caused by a specialized type of bacteria, and it's transmitted primarily through rodent urine, either in water or contaminated things like grasses, or it's a big problem in sugarcane and things like that, where there are a lot of rodents running around and they do their business about everywhere.
To turn your camera on, but we don't see you on camera just yet. If you can turn it on, that would be great, but I'll continue this conversation. So here we are in Chicago. We don't have sugarcane fields. Where would this be happening? How would this be passed on to individuals?
It could be transmitted through where places where there are a lot of rodents. If there's been excessive rainfall and the water is pooling, the bacteria are all over in the soil, and so that water would become contaminated, and people who might be walking through that water, if they had a little cut on their ankle or something like that, the bacteria can get in that way. It's a pretty big problem in swimming holes, ponds, things like that. Those bacteria can be quite numerous in places like that. And so if you happen to jump in there and suck in some water, you can get it like that. Basically, any place there are rodents, there's going to be a possibility of acquiring it.
Yeah, I want our viewers to really take heed to what you're saying, because the Chicago Department of Public Health has put out a health alert about this. There have been 4 people that have been infected. Sadly, one of those patients did die. Anyone that's watching that lives in an area where we know there is a high rat population, what can they do to make sure they ward off catching this?
Well, with any pest problem, it's pretty easy to think about what we call the pest triangle. Just like us, any pest, and in this case rats, require 3 main things. That's food, that's water, and a place to live, just like us. So one of the first things to do is to not leave any type of rodent food, including leftover pizza, which happens to be one of their favorite things to eat. I don't know whether it's deep dish or thin crust, but to not have that around. Garbage cans, Things like that should be properly sealed. No storage of bird seed and things where rats can get at them. That's the first thing. The second thing is exclusion, to keep them out. Things like having a proper door sweep. Screens and doors should be fitting tightly so they can't get in. You have to remember that we call this the 35-cent rule of pest control. A rat can fit in through a hole that's the size of a quarter, and a mouse can fit in a hole that's the size of a dime. If they can get their nose in, they can squeeze in there. So that's the second thing. Limiting water around your property. Rats need to drink some water almost every day. And so if you don't have standing water or leaky faucets or things like that, that will help. And then the fourth main thing is to maintain your yard. If you have a lot of debris in your yard, piles of brush, this is conducive to rats taking up residence there.
Let me ask you this question. Maybe, this is the time of year where there's allergies, people have caught COVID, the flu, all these different viruses, and they may not be able to differentiate, if they have an actual situation of this particular virus and disease that we're talking about. How can people tell if they have it? What are some of the symptoms?
Well, that's a difficult thing to say because leptospirosis mimics a lot of diseases, particularly in the early stages of it. There's just headache, chills, fever, myalgia or muscle aches, maybe a cough, maybe some diarrhea. That can be almost anything. The best thing that they can do is go to a medical facility, particularly if they've been around rodents or have been around perhaps contaminated water, and tell the healthcare providers that, and then they could be tested specifically for leptospirosis. But there's no particular symptom or sign that a homeowner would pick up on that would tell them that they had this disease.
Anything people can do, I know you mentioned, water or standing water at your home, things like that. What about rat poison? Because that's been a hotly contested debate here in Chicago. Does it really work? The city spends so much money for the abatement. We've heard about rat birth control. What's really the solution to kind of dwindle down that population in major metropolitan cities?
Well, the first thing I want to do is discourage anybody from what we call do-it-yourself pest control, particularly when it comes to rodents. It's just a bad idea. There are a lot of companies out there that our expertise is at controlling rats. So I would suggest that they call one of those companies. There are a lot of techniques and methods that are advertised that just don't work very well. And so, as I said, I would encourage them to consult with a professional. But the main thing, as I said, is keeping them out and making your property or your structure much less attractive to rats. And if they don't have water and they don't have something to eat, a place to live, they're going to go somewhere else. It's that simple.
Dr. Cope, you've encouraged me to go home and do some cleaning around the house. We appreciate you coming on and talking about something that, I know it makes people a little creeped out, but it's something that definitely needs to be discussed. Thank you so much for your time.
You're most welcome. I enjoyed it.
All right. It was a pleasure. I have Cassie Carlson with me right now. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you in person.
Yeah. We usually on social media running past each other in the hallway. The Bears.
The Bears.
It's a short turnaround. Mm-hmm. They're going to Detroit. What do you think will happen?
Ooh, what do I think will happen? Well, I think it's going to be a very loud, hostile environment as they go to Ford Field in Detroit. It's a very tough place to play, especially with all the hype around this game, given the fact that it's Ben Johnson returning to Detroit, where he left to go to an in-division rivals and become the head coach of the Bears. And both these teams coming off division losses week one. So there's a lot at stake, especially when you see the Packers start the season 2-0 and what they did in Thursday Night Football last night. It's a little scary looking at the Packers right now. And Ben Johnson was asked today if there have been any conversations about starting the season 0-2. He looked at the report. He said, yeah, you're crazy. We're going in to win this game.
Okay, so let me ask you this. One of the players, and I don't know if I got his name, is it Saint somebody with the Detroit Lions.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember who it was. Said that he's going to be booing.
I think a lot of people are going to be booing Ben Johnson. Like, Detroit is very much still holding a grudge against him. And mind you, he helped take Detroit to the upper echelon of the NFL and turn around that franchise, being one of the top scoring offenses in the league for all 3 years when he was the offensive coordinator. And remember what happened to them in the NFC Championship last year and falling to the Commanders. So I think there's a lot of hard feelings still around Ben Johnson leaving. And he was asked about, did he ever think about the relationships he had in Detroit before taking the job in Chicago? And he said he considers head coach Dan Campbell family, and they have a ton of great relationships back there. But when just looking at the opportunity that he had coming to the Bears, it's one that you can't pass up, being a head coach of an original franchise.
What else was said today? Because I didn't get to, I've been here, so I haven't had time to hear everything.
Oh, let's talk about it. So, Ben Johnson's very familiar with the offensive weapons that Detroit has, and mainly those two running backs, and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and he was glowing about Jahmyr Gibbs and the speed he has, and he said a lot of people just think that he's someone who you want to get in open space, but he can get those tough short yards too, and it's interesting hearing him talk about his old players because you can sense that he still just appreciates them and loves them so much, and so I think that's going to kind of interesting that he's just like glowing about these guys. So he talked about that. He definitely wants to move past the whole kicking the ball out of bounds snafu that happened right before the 2-minute warning against the Vikings. Like, can we move on to the next game? And so he's taking the blame for that. Those were two of the main things. I think the other important thing to note is we got the injury list heading into this game. Jalen Johnson, the shutdown corner, is going to make his season debut against the Lions on Sunday. He said he was never planning on playing in that Monday night opener. That was a little bit of gamesmanship, it seemed, to say, oh, maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. Kyler Gordon, their nickelback, is out. TJ Edwards, linebacker, is back, so that's good when it comes to stopping the run. And then defensive lineman Grady Jarrett is questionable with the knee injury heading into this game, but Tina Wynn said she talked to him one-on-one in the locker room, and he said he's hoping to be able to go. So
what do you think? If we had to narrow this all down, do you think the Bears win game 2 of the season?
It's going to be so tough to go into that place. But given the fact, it's going to be interesting to see how both these teams adjust, especially with Caleb Williams and what we saw, and every coordinator that we talked to this week basically called it a tale of two halves. Like, he looked really good on the opening drives, and then you saw him kind of revert back to old habits that we saw in his rookie season, a lot of accuracy issues. So hopefully he's on the same page with his receivers. But the Lions did not look like the Lions of last year, and they have 2 new coordinators as well. And for a team that was known to run the ball, they only rushed for 46 yards.
Not far.
And so if the Bears can stop the run and take away the run game and make them one-dimensional, they definitely have a chance. A lot of it, I think, is still going to come down to the whole pre-snap procedural stuff and penalties that we saw happen week 1 against Minnesota. They're going to have to use a silent cadence, which can cause some issues as well because, like we mentioned before, that place is very, very loud. Tough place to play.
Are you going to Detroit?
I am going to Detroit.
And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here. And that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet, all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. You know, this bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me. I'll just conclude with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. Like, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And Hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country, and I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Governor, can you speak to whether the suspect is speaking with authorities and his demeanor, Tyler Robinson, when he turned himself in?
I cannot speak to that right now.
Governor, how do you interpret the engravings on casing?
Well, I will leave that up to you to interpret what those engravings mean. I think the clearest one that says "catch fascist," there's not, and by the way, that's like catch like a ball, catch this. I think that speaks for itself.
Governor, you indicated